Hello, everyone. I am Lady Garland, and this is Finding Your Voice. I just did another episode with Bjorn Dufault, aka the Queen of Shade. Listen, this was another riveting conversation. Come with us as we take a journey with the Queen, starting from elementary school to college, to find out why he did not transition into a woman. Please like and share. We love you.
The Queen of Shade. Thou wert full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. In the garden of God was where I found thee. Every precious stone did encase thy body, and the wings of a cherub did cover thee. You can never return. You can never return.
Hello, everyone. I am Lady Garland, and this is Finding Your Voice. I am so happy to have on my show again for the third time Bjorn Dufault, aka everyone, the Queen of Shade. Now, I'm excited about this topic because it is definitely new for me to hear about this subject. Bjorn just told me about it and then said, "Let's do it," because this is the Bjorn way. Let's just do it. Let's get it done. I got the idea. Let's make it happen, and that's why I am talking to the Queen of Shade today because there has been this beautiful evolution of this person that we all have known as Bjorn Dufault on social media. And I'm just grateful that that he's coming back again to share more of his heart and his personal story. And I just want us to get right into that. Did you have anything that you want to say? I know the last time we were like, wait a minute, let me say this before.
And once again, I just want to say thank you for having me. I remember when this topic, because I have what's called these spirit cycles. And I didn't get to say that last time. I have these spirit cycles. So my spirit starts to work out difficult problems with itself and things that, people might want to know, or things that I have suppressed for so long and not given actual answers to. Though there has been a lot of speculation, though there has been a lot of questioning, I go through these spirit cycles. And when this topic came to me, I realized that there was a story there, a reason. So I just want to say before we dive right in that I'm so thankful, because when I text you, because yes, we have each other's numbers, yeah. But when I text you, I was like, you're the premier person to talk to about this, and I'm going to explain that very quickly. So I'm happy to be on the show, but I said it very briefly in our last interview that went so well. People are writing me. Somebody was just actually sending me a voice memo, and they were like, I watched your interview with Garland Guidry, and they were like, you don't need nothing. This is just going. It is full steam ahead. You are doing your thing, and I'm so proud of you. So I said to you, you are the premier person, because we had this little joke going on, but you're Marie Laveau. You come from Louisiana. You've got all of these spiritual gifts that access the heavens and the underworld at the same time. And I just was like, if I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about it with her. So I'm just so thankful to be here to shed light on this, not just for the people, but for myself. This is the first time I'll be saying it out loud, which means when I say it, I'll be hearing it for the first time as well. So
I
just
love
very
this, and
excited.
thank you so much for choosing me to do this again. Like I said, like I mean, I'm a hairstylist, and I told someone, I said, listen, she said she felt comfortable with me. I'm in a salon that you can't really request me, but she wants to because she feels comfortable with me, right? She's already gotten that connection. And so I said, yeah, because this is a personal thing with me messing with your hair. So I don't take it lightly when people share their stories with me and share them publicly. That is a huge deal. And so I do appreciate from the bottom of my heart the trust. And you don't have no idea how great you make me feel all the time when we speak, because was telling me that I am the premier person to talk to. I told my boyfriend as I was coming here, I said, I feel like Oprah. And of course, he says, not trying to jab, but I didn't take it as one, but he's like, well, imagine what Oprah must feel like, because like you're not nowhere near Oprah, status, but like imagine what she must feel like. I said, well, I don't know. Maybe Oprah's not that happy to be in her status, but I am. I don't have to be like this world renowned person. I just had this thought with myself the other day. I said, in this world, and as the amount of time that I've been here on this planet, I feel like I have created my own sense of fame and success and fortune. Even just you saying that to me, that's a part of that. Like I have to be somebody for you to feel like that. Right? So here's the thing. And so if I'm accepting where I'm at now with who I am and feel like I'm already have reached that status, none of it, wherever I climb and wherever I go, will feel any different from what I feel right now, because I'm already there. I've already arrived.
And I want to add something to that. What I love about being who I am is that I have the right to choose. So we all know, I've been in this business, I've been in this business 23 years. And it's been a lot of give and take. And a lot of times I took the high road and walked away. But one thing I love about this business is that I know we are both bona fide stars. And what I love about that is power comes with it. And I can tell you this, I'm making a pact with you right now. It's like a pact, because a star back in the old days of stars, when it wasn't social media and it was the newspapers and reporters and things like that, you had even Britney Spears, you as the star could pick someone that you allow to be your voice. So when the public wanted to know something about you, you spoke to that person because you trusted that person and you had a bond with that person, and nobody else did you trust like that. So they would get the inside scoops, the exposés, the exclusives. And I'm just telling you right now, even with my career and where it's going, I will only talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because we both are self-made. The divine picked us up, and we don't have to be Oprah. We stand, and there's so much power and presence in what we do together and apart, that we stand, and people, when we open our mouths, people know why we were chosen. And I'm talking about for life. They understand why we were chosen. And I just feel, even going on, Europe's in my future, when they want to know something and something arises, and Queen, I need you to make light on this, or I need you to shed light on this. Well, you got to call Garland Guidry and set it up, because this is the only person. And I get that from the old stars. They would fly people in. This is who I'm going to talk to about this, because this person is going to handle me the correct way. This person is going to make sure that my story is done correctly. And you're that person for me. And we've known each other since 2008? And just seen each other grow. You're that, like the rapport is there. The rapport is there. I'll only talk to you if I'm not doing it myself. And I love it, because even when I do, you even said it last time, you did a video yourself, but it went to a whole new level when I came in. And that was because of you. That wasn't me. That was because of you. You brought that to another level, which is why I very readily wanted to do it again, especially about a topic as sensitive as this one, with what's going on.
I want to say one more thing before we move forward
Yeah.
into the topic. I know people are probably like, "Oh my God, what is it? What is it? What is it?" Well, just we want you to be anticipating. I was talking to a client today, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about people who get plastic surgeries and they keep going, and we kind of came to this conclusion that these people don't have someone in their lives that will be honest with them about that and who they also trust.
Oh.
And I said, I have a friend who kept doing lip injections. And I said, friend, I said, if you do one more, you're going over the edge. And you know what she said to me? She said, Garland, thank you so much. She said, because I know that you didn't tell me that out of jealousy or because you don't want, this. And she said, I know that you told me that out of love. So people don't have that. People do not have a me.
Especially in this business. When you do
Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, all the people that they had around them people did not trust. They trusted to do what they thought was best for them over listening to anybody else because all people wanted to do was take from them. And you know that I'm not that kind of person. When I'm doing good for people, there is nothing for me to gain. I'm always just thinking about that person.
Yeah.
And that's rare. And I know that about myself. I can speak that about myself. As I hear you saying what you're saying, it resonates to me because I believe that about myself.
You are rare. And not only are you able to tell in love, but you are that person that can say, friend, no. No. You should rethink that. And I
did it with you with that relationship.
I was just getting ready to bring it up. And that's the thing. What people need to understand is you didn't message me online. You called me. We were voice memoing over the phone, and you were like, I just don't feel this for you. And this is the thing. And what you said is so true because I knew you weren't saying it out of bias, out of anything. You were worried about my well-being. And I need everybody to know you were right. You turned out to be right. You turned out to be so right that I was wrong. Like you turned out and that, see, Keke Palmer, I watched her recently on the Terrell Grice show, the Terrell show on YouTube. And she was talking about, all the ups and downs and going broke after success and all of these different things. But she said, what you need around you is not a bunch of yes men because you are the boss, because your head is, your name is on the marquee. You need people that's going to pull you to the side and look here, bitch, you going too far. You need to sit down in a room with yourself and regroup. And you're that person, Garland. And the way you do it is never, even when you have to get like that, it is never abrasive. It is never abrasive. It's on time. It's on point. And I've been saying this to you since we've been having conversations like this it's over a decade. So I've always said, we're going to work together. We're going to work together. We're going to work together. And I love that because you help me amplify my voice. You help me, because a lot of people get upset. And I'm going to say this, the truth. A lot of people get upset. Oh, this bitch is so full of herself. She just come here and say this, that, and the other. I am queen of self-interview. I will interview myself. And I've been doing that. They're like monologues, but it goes to a whole new level when there's someone as powerful, if not more powerful. You're my sister, but you are also older than I am. There's a level there. There's a level there. There's an understanding. There's a God presence there that I need in my life, which is why I was like, when this topic came to me today, I was like, I'm going to do it with Garland. So yeah, go ahead. Because I know these people are like, okay, bitch, what is it?
What's the tea? Okay, so the Queen of Shade contacted me and said, I want to talk about why I did not transition, meaning becoming a transgender woman.
Yes.
And I'm just going to, because that's the only tidbit that I got. But it's interesting as when I was coming, because I'm in an office, and I was leaving the apartment to come to the office, and I was telling my boyfriend what the topic was going to be. And I said, and it's just so interesting that I've watched you embody all these different personas of females, right? Tina Turner, Grace Jones, the list goes on, Diana Ross. And so, and then I'm like, to see, I remember Bjorn starting off in the Bat Cave, meow. And and so I said, and then I watched him and evolve, right? I said, even when the Queen of Shade was born, she was more Grace Jones like, right? And then she just kept evolving. Then she had the wigs, and then the makeup starting in, and then we had the elaborate dresses. So there's been an evolution of who you are in your feminine as an outward persona, but you've called it transvestite at first, and then you started saying trans illusionist. So there's still like this evolution going. So I wanted to set that up for everyone, what I've seen and what I've observed with you and your journey. But we see what you were presenting to us and the terms you were using, but we didn't know what was deeper going on behind that. So share that with us.
Okay, well, I want to start with this. When I was about 6 years old, I come from a family on my mother's side that, all of my uncles and my aunts are gay and lesbian. Every last one of them. All of my grandmother's children, except my mother, is gay and lesbian. So you would think that that would be the right environment for me, but it was the wrong environment for me. What happened, and I'll never forget this, at about 6 years old, we were all in the living room, and my uncle was there. My uncle, I can't call his name because, I don't legal purposes, but my uncle and my aunt, they were like thick as thieves. One of them, he was gay, she was a lesbian, but they were young. This was before they actually started living and in the life or the adult life of being gay. But they looked at me, and everybody's there, and I'm sitting on the edge of the couch. And I was I was coming from a home where I didn't say much, because saying much meant that, especially in school, because my mother was on drugs and my father was absentee, saying too much would bring inquisition into the house and could possibly get us taken, because we were living a really bad life. My mother wasn't caring for us. I actually had to step up and care for us. So it was, I as a child, I wasn't as vocal as I am now. And as I grew up to be, what happened was they looked at me, and my aunt and my uncle, and I've never forgotten it. It was just so traumatic. They looked at me, and my uncle starts going, cigars. And my aunt goes, cigarettes? And he goes, cigars. And she goes, cigarettes? And basically, the joke was, you're going to end up a transgendered woman selling cigars and cigarettes in an upscale nightclub. That's your future. That devastated me. And it almost made me hate everything about myself that was feminine. Because even in a family where both my uncles that were gay were effeminate. They were very feminine. They dress and drag and do all of that stuff. They kind of made it like it was going to be a terrible thing if I did it. It was like not acceptable if I did it. And what I later came to understand was that my uncles, my aunts, they just weren't as secure as I was, even at 6 years old. At 6 years old, I knew who I was. I had to. I didn't have my mother. So I had to figure out again who I would be. And at that moment, what was I? I was caregiver, parentified to my brothers and sisters, but I was Nana's baby. I was my grandmother's baby. And what I noticed about my grandmother was she didn't step in and save the day. Because people will say, well, you have your grandmother. What do you mean you didn't have support and this, that, and the other? One thing about my grandmother is she learned, and I'm so glad because I'm learning it from her. She mastered the ability to do just enough without tanking herself, causing herself to drown, causing herself to need rescue. So even when we were kids, she wouldn't step in and take us all. She would bring over a pot of oatmeal and raisins because we hadn't eaten in days. She would drop off the pot, give it to me. This is what you do. And this is how you live your life. So, and she would go on to live her life and to teach her classes and things like that. What I would do was I would leave that house because we were in the ghetto of North Philadelphia, but she didn't live that far away. She had purchased a home, her first home, but I could walk to it. So imagine 6 years old, walking through the hood, anything could have happened. There were predators everywhere, there's gangs and all kinds of stuff, but nothing happened to me. I knew the way, and I would knock on her door, ring the doorbell, and she would open the door and say, boy, get in here. My grandmother made sure that when I was in her presence, I had a good time. So this was the first time that my grandmother was in my presence. And my grandmother's not gay or lesbian. She didn't catch what the joke that they were making. So she's sitting there, and it's crazy because when you know yourself so well, I've known since I was 5 years old that I was different and gay. So I looked at her for kind of like rescue and protection, and I didn't get that because she didn't understand what was going on and what was being said. It was plumb out of her spectrum of knowledge. So I was forced to deal with it myself at 6. And I dealt with it back then the best way I knew how. I shut up and I took it. And I got used to shutting up and taking it until later when I found my own voice.
Wow. At 6 years old, that's something. I was just telling someone, I was in a conversation with someone yesterday, and we ended up going live because the conversation was so good. She was like, let's just do an impromptu live. And she was asking me some questions about my transition. And I said, you know what's funny? I said, I didn't do the physical transition as far as taking hormones until I was in my late 30s. I said, but I've been transitioning since I was a child. I said, I remember being attracted to men I can tell you stories from elementary on junior high on up to now. And so it's interesting to hear that you knew, that you were different at 6, because I knew I was different. When I think about even before the times that I can remember the actual events, I remember inside myself that just by looking at what they said boys were and what girls were, that I certainly knew that I didn't fit with the boys, but I wanted to be more on the girl side, but that also didn't feel quite right either. So when you're that young and I can only imagine you being around all of these people, your family who are gay and lesbian, and you being present in that, but not understanding the lingo. Now, I mean, how could you? You were young. They were already looking at you and saying, he's one of us, wherever he's going to be at, but he's one of us. And so when you were that age and you knew that you were different, did you ever think that maybe you were a girl?
And that's the thing. When I at that age, and that was the thing, you would think that they were saying, oh, he's going to be one of us in a celebratory way. It became a taunt, as if to say, don't do it, or it's wrong, or it's not a good thing. And back then, so let's move. Still six. My aunt, one of my aunts came home. She wasn't yet a lesbian too. She transitioned into lesbianism later on in her life. Um, when I say transitioned into lesbianism, I mean like she went from being a very feminine girl to very butch, short haircuts, men's clothes, working for the police, working, she did that. Whereas to her twin, 12 years old, gangbanger, yeah, being real masculine. And she kind of evolved to that later on in life. But I remember when she came home from on leave from Malibu, California, where she was stationed in the Navy, she brought a Playboy, no, it was Playgirl magazine. And, so she had the naked men in there and stuff like that. And this was the thing. I found her magazine. I was young, curious. I've always been that way. But even looking at our magazine, I never got the feeling that I was a girl alone. And this is what I want to bring up. It wasn't that I wasn't a girl. I wasn't only a girl. I was a girl and a boy. If you understand, later on in life, I got the lingo for that, being two-spirited. But back then, to me, as a 6-year-old, I was a girl and a boy. That's where it went with me. So it wasn't like they were wrong, because in actuality, they were right. It's just that I didn't only feel like I was a girl. I felt like I was a girl and a boy. So that's kind of, I existed happily, even then at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, happily in between. But when we played outside and things like that, I hung around the girls and the guys. And when the girls would go running and the guys would chase the girls, they chased me too. like they chased me too. It didn't register to me that I was doing something inappropriate, basically, is what I'm saying.
And so I'm curious too. So how was it? And I'm so glad we're having this conversation, by the way, because I just have to take a moment to digress, because it's just hitting me that I never, even in all your femininity and all your, the way you move and the way you speak and the way you sing, I never thought about you being trans or anything. I mean, I've always just taken you for who you are, who you say you are to me, right? And I have to admit that it does kind of, I'm always trying to make sure I'm not being disrespectful, because your femininity is so powerful that sometimes I feel ridiculous when I say he to you, but I know that I hear you all the time say, I am a man, I am a gay man. So there's just, like you said, there's this just duality of you, and you found a way to take your feminine energy and put on the garb, the garments, and show what you have within you, right? So this is just an outward expression of of your femininity. But anyway, so I'm curious to know, because as I'm talking about this, I'm also thinking about my life and how I always felt feminine and felt different. But I had completely felt like a girl. Like there was no thought about, that boy was supposed to be a part of my life. And so I had a lot because I was always like, what you see with me as well is what I always was. I always feel like I had this kind of poise and grace in my step. And so as I went through school, though, I saw how people would look at me, or kids would make fun or say little things that resonated, because I already felt like I was different anyway. So when they said it, it's kind of like, oh, they see me. They see it. They see what the difference in me. And it made me feel really bad. And so I had to deal with that all throughout school. Even in junior high school, people were from junior high on throughout high school. Are you a girl or a boy? Are you a girl or a boy?
Mm.
And so I want to know, how was it for you, like in your elementary school and middle school and high school years, being you?
You know what's so crazy? It was the same. Are you a girl or a boy? Do you know, even now at 40 years old, going on 41, I live in the northeastern part of the city. I'm no longer in the suburbs. When I go in the suburbs, white people address me as she. They can be looking dead at me and say
Mhm.
she. Fifth grade, and I mean, that's when I'm dressed with my baseball cap and my sweats on and my book bag and those things that I've learned to, and I'll get to that. I learned to grow into my masculinity because I realized I was allowed, but we'll get to that. And so in the first of elementary school, I was being chased home by boys. I was being bullied. It was completely wrong. So then my grandmother and my aunt hatched this plan of, he's not safe down here. They're going to hurt him really badly. Let's get him out of here. Let's move him to the suburbs. So my very first day of elementary school in the suburbs, I was entering at fifth grade. I was 10. And the school only went to sixth grade. So I had one more year there, and then I would go to junior high school from seven to like ninth. So what happens was, the very first day I was on a bus, I had never ridden a school bus ever. I was so scared because I didn't know what to expect. This was a whole new environment for me. I hoped that it would mean that I wouldn't be physically bullied anymore, physically beaten up anymore. But what I realized is it was worse, because I'm just going to say this: higher level thinking people, black or white, they don't fight with their fist. They fight with their words. They fight with their gestures. And those, most of the time, are far worse than, you're like, well, bitch, just slap me. Shit, you just going to destroy my spirit? Like, that's what their words would do. So the very first day, I'll never forget, I'm in the back of the bus. And this girl, Caucasian girl, she looks at me and she says, oh, you're new here. And I said, yes, I'm new here. And she looked at me and she looked at the boys and she was like, are you a transvestite? Now, mind you, my aunt had dressed me the best that she could with what we could afford to go to school, to my chances in the suburbs. And I still have a picture, it's really blurry, but it's this big Dare shirt and these little shorts. And I was skinny as a rail, but it was, clothes were oversized. So I just remember her saying to me, are you a transvestite? And they all started laughing at me. And see, my thing is, I'm always aware of people, always aware. So I realized, oh shit, I left the city being physically bullied, and now I'm going to be emotionally and spiritually and mentally bullied here. And that continued. She laughed at me. And she later wrote me after this full, growth, and apologized and said she was raising her son to love all people. But even in saying that you're raising your son to love all people, you're admitting that you did not love me then. You see? So,
Mhm.
but as I continued through school, in that school, and that's what I loved, in that school system, she made the remarks, but the guys didn't. The boys didn't. I had Caucasian friends. I had Hindi. I had Indian friends. I had Chinese friends. I had white friends, all the other boys, because first of all, this voice, we all spoke the same. It was before puberty. It was before puberty. I could scream louder than they could. But literally, for fifth grade and sixth grade, it was fine. I got invited to the sleepovers. The boys didn't, think anything of it. And then comes this one black guy, and I got to be careful because I almost called his name. But he corners me in the stairwell at this white school and is bullying me. And usually when things like that happen to me, I'm silent about them. I don't say anything. But being in this new school, it was weird how it went because the other kids told my aunt. They were like, this is unacceptable. And they told. And so where I was quiet, I come home and my aunt's like, drop your book bag, we gotta go. And I'm like, where are we going? But I don't question, she was a military woman. So she said, we gotta go. When she say jump, she used to say this to me all the time. When I say jump, you say how high, like that kind of thing. So what I didn't know was the boy who had bullied me lived in the apartment complex across the street from mine.
Mm.
So what happens is my aunt ends up taking me to his house to meet his mother, and literally for him to apologize, and they force us to be friends. They force us to get along. And we never really did. He stopped physically bullying me, but he still was a bully in every sense of the word. And then there were some times where he would try to fight me in front of the other guys, and the guys would be like, no, this is not going down. But they were white kids. He was black, he was big, and I didn't really get a reprieve from him until one of my really good friends came up from the city who played football. So I've had an affinity and a love for footballers my whole life. It's not just, oh, I like them because of their bodies. They protected me. So this new kid comes and he becomes my best friend, and he's black and he's much bigger. He played for an inner city school called Martin Luther King High. And they had futures, basically. They were being trained for futures to get out of the hood. So he was a big football player. So when this guy steps in and we become friends, it was like Beauty and the Beast. And the other guy couldn't bully me. So that stopped. Fast forward, my aunt is no longer able to pay the rent where we live. So we get evicted. This eviction happens while I'm at school. This is in junior high school. While I'm at school, I get a letter. And junior high school was bad. When I say that was bad, it wasn't about being gay or anything like that. It was, you are an underclassman and I am an upperclassman, and I'm going to bully you for that reason. But based on my past being bullied, it was still so traumatic, but at least they weren't bullying me for my mannerism. But it still was. But I got a letter and we got kicked out of that school district. I lost all of my friends. Everyone that accepted me for who I was. Everyone that I rode bikes with on the weekends. We rode through the woods. We had this woods called Bader Wood. We would catch crayfish and salamanders. I got to be a real boy with interest. I was back then, I was into Sonic the Hedgehog. I still have a little Sonic the Hedgehog figurine. And, I played and we, caught things and brought them home. And that lasted for 2 years. And then I moved to the school that I ended up going to middle school and high school. And it was a lot of abuse. It was a lot of emotional abuse, And what I did was, in order for them to stop bullying me because of my sound and my mannerism and my femininity, I threw myself into religion. We were going to church, but I became like, kids go and it's, oh, my mom is into church. No, I started taking it on to myself because it gave me an identity. If I'm a Christian, then you won't bully me because you know that I'm living a life that is separatist and, holy, and I pray and I'll pray for you. And I very much in school became that guy. I pray for you. I speak and different things like that. I became that kid. But in doing so, I was causing a lot of damage to my real self. I almost, if not forgot who I was, because in Christianity, it wasn't about masculinity or effeminacy. It was about obedience to God without sacrifice. So that meant I didn't have an identity outside of Christianity. And that was tough. I mean, the kids would make fun of my voice. In high school, they would make fun of my voice. They would try me. That's the word. They would try me. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But you know what kids do, people that have been bullied, we try to give it degrees where we really shouldn't, because all bullying is wrong because it's bullying. But we try to say, no, I can take this because before I was getting hit in the head with rocks, but now I'm not getting hit in the head with rocks, so this is better. No, it's still bullying. So I still, I was never really embraced. When it changed for me in high school, when I was running in gym class, and Mr. Hines, I can call his name. Mr. Hines was my gym teacher. And he said to me, because back then my name was Kali. So he said, Kali, you've got a gift. You should try out for the track team. I said, well, and I liked Mr. Hines a lot. So I said, well, I don't know, like, who's the track coach? And he said, I am. So I was like, oh, all right, I'll be there this afternoon, so that, now there's a significance to that. That gave me male friends. I didn't have too many. In high school, I didn't have many male friends. I got my first Black male friend because he was on the track team. He also did basketball.
Let me ask you this before you go on, because you said this, and I wrote it down. You said you learned to go into your masculinity. So was this part of that process?
Yes, like I learned, and that was the thing. I learned, but get this, from coming from where I was afraid to even show my masculinity, because my masculinity was still not as masculine as the other guys. So I would get beaten up because, oh, you're trying, but your try isn't good enough. We see you, girl. You see? So when I tell you, I have lived a life, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep on talking about it. But I'm hearing it come out of me for the first time, that whole experience. But I didn't have, like I said, a Black male friend until what was that? Junior year of high school.
So keep talking about the track thing, because I'm curious about you meeting these males now in track.
Well, get this. The gays, we love non-contact sports. I come from a place of being bullied. Non-contact, you mean you're not going to hit me? You're not going to tackle me? You're just going to give me a baton and I can do what I got to do and then pass it on, and you're not going to physically accost me? To this day, I'll tell you about college in a second. But being a part of that team, it was the greatest thing, because where I didn't have comrades before, I'm going to lunch, and see, for me, for a long time, I would go to the library because it was the hardest thing. Where are you going to sit? Who are you going to sit with? I dreaded that. But because of track, they weren't all in my lunch, but I had a couple, so I could sit at the table with them and eat. I wasn't really much of a talker to them. Well, I was a talker because, I was voted most talkative in school. But that came later after track. I really started opening my big ass mouth like I'm doing now. But I didn't have to worry so much, because it was like, I was good. That was the thing. I was good. I was winning medals. So I'm like, so they like, oh, we'll see you today. We warm up. We're going to do our drills and stuff like that for this weekend's track meet. So I'm like, yeah, I'll see you there. So I learned how to show my masculinity more in an environment that wanted it. And see, this is the thing. My mother always told me I was a chameleon. And I'm bringing this up because I want you to understand why I do even what I do today. As a chameleon, I will give you exactly what you want to see, image-wise. Chameleon is not about soul, not about spirit, not about none of that. Aesthetically, it is, I will please you aesthetically. And I'm a Libra. So I could very easily, and with the guys, they were Caucasian, they were Armenian, they were Grecian, they were, all of these different things. So it wasn't like I had to be a hard Black guy. I didn't have to be a hard Black guy. I didn't have to be hood. I didn't have to be anything. I had to be the guy that goes on to college, graduates from high school, goes on to college, gets a degree, and works, in society, and not the bad lions of the hood. That was my future. I knew that I wasn't going back to the hood. I wasn't going to have to worry about stepping down. I'm gonna stop there in case you want to say something.
I'm gonna back it up. Well, first I want to say this, and then I'm gonna back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel so, my heart is warmed of hearing that you were able to have some form of acceptance by being on the track team by other guys, right? Because I know for sure that, because when you said earlier that you always felt like you were both two-spirited, male and female, that you needed that form of validation of your masculinity, right? So that's like just such a beautiful way of seeing how that you knew that so early, right? Like you didn't feel like that there was a one that or the other that you had to choose. And so the universe allowed you, or God brought you to this place to have that kind of camaraderie with guys, because I on the other hand, right, was always drawn to the femininity. So everything had to do with girls. I never got that kind of love and acceptance from men, because I also, which is not a good thing, is I was also rejecting my masculinity. And we should all embrace both, right? It's different degrees. One might be leaning towards, one more than the other. But the truth is that masculine and feminine is a part of all of us. So I love that happened for you. I want to back it up, and because I had this question when you were saying that your family was like, oh, we got to get you out of this school, we got to get you to another school because you're being bullied, you're being tormented. Were you understanding at all what any of that meant? Like what was so wrong about you that was causing this kind of chaos, and that your family had to uproot you and bring you to another school just because you're Khalil? It's like, what's wrong with me? Like, what did you think at all about what was going on? And also, did they even explain to you? Did the adults explain to you what was happening?
The adults, no. And in the Black community, they leave it alone. They don't touch it. But all the boys kept saying, you sound like a girl. You walk like a girl. You hit like a girl. It just, so I knew that I was being tormented for being feminine.
Okay.
And get it, back then, 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you don't know that the word is feminine. So I was telling myself, I'm being bullied for being a boy that acts like a girl.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. That is so interesting, and I think about that, and since you mentioned, because of the Black community and certain things that we just don't touch, and how ignorant we are to a lot of things.
It's willful. It's willful ignorance. It's willful.
Yeah. And because there's too much information now to just, be it has to be willful at this point, right? And so, and then you said that, and I was thinking about the Black boy that you said that had cornered you, that lived across the street from you. And it was funny because I thought back on this guy, and it's funny, you remember the names of these people. I remember his first and last name and what he looks like. But I remember he used to be also one who would bully me. Mm-hmm. And he said to me one day, we were sitting alone, and it's so crazy. He said to me, why do people call you gay? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, I just do it because everybody else does.
Mm. Mm, mm.
I was in junior high and I didn't quite fully understand what had happened at that moment. But I knew that when he was talking to me and he was being kind, he was being softer
Mhm.
because he was the black boy who was like, he was terrorizing everybody.
Yeah.
But I could tell that he really didn't feel that way about me. And he was having this moment of connecting with me.
Mhm.
And, he just said, oh, he admitted he was just going along with the crowd and that he didn't have any of those thoughts about me.
But you know what? He did what I learned to do. I would get those boys one at a time by themselves. And I would work on them and charm them and talk to them and connect with them. And then they'd realize whatever he is, I like him. I
I love
Yeah, I did a lot of that. I want people to understand. I went to bat for me, for Kali. I went
that.
to bat for Kali a lot. Kali had to take care of Kali away from home. So I learned how to, okay, I need to get him because if I get him, it'll get them. I had to strategically know who to target to get it to stop. So what and this is the thing, like I always like I've and when I get men like that I need to get to, I use my divine feminine. I always did. I never lead with my divine masculine. It's always my divine feminine. And in my divine feminine, I speak to him in a slow voice, my actual voice. I speak to him in a soft tone. And then I start complimenting him. Real compliments, not no fake made up compliments. Like I've known these boys, I've watched them, in watching them, I learned what they were good at and what they were bad at and what they wanted to be good at. So when I talk to them, I talk to them about what they wanted to be good at. So you have to understand, as a young person, there's a lot of shit going on in my mind constantly. I am literally having and I've always been that way. I went to college for science, biology. I've always my whole life has been a lesson in experimentation. I'm experimenting. I have to, and then gather the data and figure out why it worked and why it didn't work. And when it worked, I put that tool in my tool belt. If it didn't work, I put that tool to the side and said, well, don't use that one. And now that I'm saying this out loud, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that I had to do that. I had to overcompensate and learn people who had no interest in learning me. First of all, it should be a two-way street. It wasn't. It was one way. I had to go after them. And I would. And the thing was, whenever I got them alone, baby, it changed. I never, I was a virgin until college, but their interest in me was higher. Their affinity for me, their like for me. I remember even the guy that I'm talking about that was my friend, that he became my friend. That was the first guy's house I went home with. I went home with him after track meet. And I remember it. Nobody thought anything of it. He's like, you going home with me today? And I'll never forget that walk. That walk was on the train tracks. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to a boy's house. I'm going to a boy's house, a black boy who is fine as hell, mind you, fine as hell. And I'm like, what? And I know I like him. I liked him from the first time I saw him, but I need to do more intel. So I'm like, I'm not trying to, my hormones hadn't really raged yet. So I was okay. So I'm like, all right, this is the first, don't fuck this up because this is the black man. And he played basketball, football. So what he said to the others would dictate how they treated me after that. And I knew that. It's kind of like being a queen. You have to get the king's favor. You have to get the king's favor. And I went about that. Look at how early I was doing that. So I go home with him and we're talking and he's telling about his life, and he was Jamaican. And that was the thing. So I meet his mom, and you can see in his mom when she met me, she looked at him and then looked at me. And it was like, can't you see this boy is gay? you know, and he would tell and he was like, Mom, we're on the same track team. Like he chimed up, Mom, we're on a track team. We got to meet on Thursday. Da 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 da. We came home to relax. And then his mother embraced me because, oh, okay, he's not here to try to get my son. He's here to be a friend to my son. So, so we became best friends. Best friends.
It's so interesting because you always, every time we have these conversations, I realize some things about myself, and I had been so in denial of my masculinity that I realized in this conversation that I actually was operating a lot more in my masculine than I thought I was. Because here's the deal, is that the part of you that you try so hard to make vanish or to not pay attention to, it's still there. And so the power, and what I see in you, is that the power is when you started recognizing all these different parts of yourself, then you knew how to utilize them. And that's some badass shit. So when you say it's kind of sad, I see it from a different vantage point, right? It was sad for you because you had to go through all the figuring it out and doing certain things and not knowing where the boundaries were and this and that. But you had to go through all that so that way you can see those parts of yourself. You had to do all of these things for survival. And so, but then look at who you are now because of that, right? So this is a wonderful journey and so helpful in so many ways, because we are always not being aware of all the sides of us, right? And so as I think about it, and when you said that when you were trying to, masculine it up, but it wasn't working, it's like, you see, we have such similarities, because I remember one time because people used to always look at me, right? They was always wondering, is that a boy or a girl? Is that a boy or a girl? No matter where I went. It wasn't just in school, it was out in public too. People kikiing behind me. So what I learned to do for my own survival was that I describe it this way, like when they put the blinders on the horses, I was like that, so I wouldn't see them. So if I had a friend with me and then they would take me away from that blinder and show me who's saying something about me or shoo-shooing, I would be upset because I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Like I had deliberately allowed myself not to make eye contact with folks because I already knew what they were going to be doing, right? And so I remember one day I had this baseball cap on and I remember I was like, I'm going to deliberately not have the sway and blah, blah, blah. I swear no sooner than I tried to put that on, somebody called me out.
What is girl over here doing?
I couldn't hide that part of me. My femininity was the forefront of who I am. And I didn't start really embracing that fully until my 30s, right? I'm 48 now. I didn't start embracing it until my 30s, and it still took a long time to do that. But my masculine side has been my protector. My masculine side, because I was always like, okay, people, you can say what you want about me, just don't touch me. Yeah. Because I already knew I was going to be like, I would be a murderer, because I'm not fucking with you, I'm not touching you. Do you know nobody even hit me or nothing? Like no boys ever fucked with me in that way. Mm-hmm. It's like they knew that that masculine in me is so outrageous that they just knew not to go there. They just poked fun, but they never, ever touched me. And I'm glad that they didn't, because I already knew, like, I was going to get them for not just them, but for everybody else who had made fun of me and was torturing me emotionally in my life, right? But I love that you talked about learning how to use your femininity with these guys to get them to embrace you, and it's so gorgeous to me, because I'm just now at 48, just learning how to drop my shoulders a little bit and be more in my feminine in this relationship I'm in, because he's fully in his masculine and he's into women.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in my masculine, that doesn't work. But just imagine that I'm thinking all this time because of the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I move, the way I dress, that was me being fully in my feminine. It was not. It was me putting on the outward, but I hadn't figured out actually how to work the inner femininity of myself.
Yeah.
And so again, as we're talking and we're going along with your story, it's just so beautiful because I already know this, this end result, what I'm seeing here, right? We're going to the past, but I'm seeing the creation of the Queen of Shade, of Bjorn Dufault. It's like, it's such a beautiful thing. So let's go to, you said you was gonna give us some tidbits about your college life.
Oh boy. College was very difficult for me. It was the first time I was away from home. And I picked a college that was 7 hours away from my home, though it was still in state because my home was pretty bad. Like home life was bad. There was a lot of people. There was 8 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I slept on the floor in the living room from 7th grade to 12th grade. I didn't get into a bed until college. So I was over it. But not being prepared for college didn't mean, aptitude wise, because I went to a college prep school. I just didn't realize that when you go to college, it's your family that supports you. It's your family that buys you books. It's your family that gets you your meal plan. It's your family. I'll never forget, even in high school for, all of my this was an upscale school. So, excuse me, everybody's preparing PSATs, SATs. This is what you do. I got to go home and beg for that money. And I'm like, no. This is what you do. This is, it was so crazy because some people say, well, you went to college and college wasn't for you. College, it wasn't that college wasn't necessarily for me because I had the aptitude to do it. I didn't have the support. And my thing was, I had never seen a therapist. So I had all of these occurrences. And even when you have to figure out, how to get a person to like you, it's a lot of strain on you because in trying to figure out how to get a person to like you, you're already aware that they don't like you. So you are approaching it already knowing the end result, and you're trying to change that end result. And that is kind of like entertainment. It's really hard to do, and people will hate your guts, but at least you're funny. At least you're pretty. They don't really give a shit about who you are as a person. Even in my work, I've done my damnedest to humanize myself and everybody that I bring to my camera because it's like they don't care. They see you as something they can indulge in for the moment, pick you up and put you down. Later on, they come back to you. So college was harder because, I was away from home and I didn't realize, you need to pay for books. You got to pay for this. You need this, that, and the other. Folk are getting care packages. I'm not getting anything. And I'm like, oh my God. So on top of that, I had all that trauma that I was escaping. I was running from. We're talking from a young guy, from a kid, all the way up through high school. There were instances. I got into fights in high school, but we didn't fight a lot because it cost us $300 in a court case if you did, because this was one of those schools. They did not tolerate physical fighting, confrontations. You would have to go before a judge. You would have to be fined. You would have 5 days out of school suspension, 5 days in school suspension. So we didn't fight. And it was a running joke among the Black kids. When we had problems with each other, we would turn to our friends and say, get my $300 together, please. Like that was our thing, because I'm about to beat this bitch down. Like we used to do that as a joke, but we did not fight. I, however, had 2 fights in school and had to take the suspensions. But the school was now look at this. The school was lenient because they knew where I was coming from. They knew I was a Black male and that I was gay and that it was very hard to navigate. And in both fights, I had to defend myself. I wasn't the offense. I was the defense. And after I had to defend myself, they would send me to the disciplinarian's office. And before the other kid got there, I would sit down and I couldn't even talk. I would just sob and sob and sob. And the disciplinarian would be like, what happened? And then the other kid would arrive saying nothing because it was a guilty party. And then the teacher would come down and say, Kali was minding his business and, he provoked him, he hit him. And then Kali I used to have blowouts because I was holding it for so long. So fast forward to college. Now, this is the wonderful thing about my college experience. I met a seer before I went. And that really helped me navigate the boys and girls at college, because the seer told me, don't believe the hype. They're going to bully you. They're going to make fun of you. They're going to call you names. But underneath all of that, they're going to desire you. They're going to want you. Don't give in, but this is what they're doing. So I thank the divine for that, because it set me up for how to handle all of the attention that I was getting. First day of school, I walk into the cafeteria in college. I'm there. Now, mind you, look at this. I made sure, I told my aunt, I need a haircut. I need the Beijing. I want the dye. I want that I have my glasses on, new shoes. I never wore Timbs in my life up until that point. I made her buy me a butter pair of Timbs and a black pair of Timbs. And that was what I wore, because I was getting ready, because I chose the school because it had more of a Black presence. This was my way of getting used to my own people. Now, mind you, since 10 years old, 5th grade, I had come away from my people. And I was in school with other Black people, but they were like me. We were not hard. This school, the kids from the inner city of Pittsburgh were graduating and coming to this school. So I knew that once again, I was going to be exposed to inner city children that were going to be different from me. So he told me, and it prepared me. So when I got there, it was as he said. First day, I'll never forget. I can't call his name, even though I know his name. I remember names and faces. I just always done that. So I remember his name, and I remember going in the cafeteria, and like I said, I got my Timbs on, I got my Beijing, I got everything. So I'm standing there, and our cafeteria was elaborate. You had different places. This is college. You paying for this, elaborate food stations. If you want something fried, if you want something fresh, if you want this, if you want that. So I am at one station, and I turn around, and this is all new to me. This was all new to me. Cafeteria food was different. This was like a real, like, cafe type situation at college, because you're paying for this shit. So one football player walks in, and he looks at me. And I look at him. He looks away. And he looks at me again. And I knew. I said, okay, he's attracted to me and I'm attracted to him. What the hell am I going to do? So I don't go over. I don't say hello. I don't say anything. I beeline the other way. Later that night, it's time for, so I was in that was my armor. So I decide to come out of my armor. I throw on my slippers. I throw on my little thin sweatpants and a t-shirt. And I go to the calf like that, because I'm seeing all the white kids do this. This is where we live. We're going to live here for the next 4 to 5 years. Let's chill and make the most of it. So I do that. And I'll never forget, the football team was there. He's there. He doesn't say anything. The football team starts. I bent over to get some ice cream out of the thing, because we had real ice cream. Like, it was a real, like, this place was really nice. I liked it. Cat food wasn't that good, but the sweets were great. But I bent over to get the ice cream, and the football team is behind me, walking by, and they're like, "Oh, he got a fatty." And you would think that that was a good thing. In that ice cream chest, bent over, I said, oh my God, it's about to start all over again. And it did. Tormented me.
So what does that mean, a fatty?
My ass.
Okay.
They liked my ass. Now, mind you, you're supposed to be straight men. They liked my ass.
So not at that point, like for you, because of the torture you had gone through, it didn't seem like a compliment to you.
Mm, 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 mm. I spent my entire life trying to keep men off me like that. Men that were quote unquote straight that would get with their boys and violate a gay guy.
Mhm.
I knew that. I'd spent my life trying to stay away from them. And now I'm stuck on a campus for 4 years with these assholes. They were
Mhm.
assholes. They were assholes. So from there, they talked about me, but I threw myself into religion again, joined the gospel choir, all of these different things, mime team. So I had a shield again. I tried to go back to the shield that I had in high school that I was trying to put down because at this time I'm recognizing, baby, it's time to come out. But this happens and I run to religion again. I hide, though I'm attracted to a lot of these men. And they're calling my room at night, talking to me. Some of them are breathing into the phone. Some of them are trying to get me to hang out with them, And these are athletic men. And what I loved about them, it was so beautiful, but I just couldn't bring myself to put up with the torture again, simply because they were beautiful. It just wasn't, most people think like, oh, you're so vain. You love beautiful men. I'm not as vain as you think. Like I'm not as vain as you think. But once again, I have to go into my skill set of, I got to get to each one of these people. I got to find the fucking leader and I got to get to him. So that's what I did. And he joined the choir, gospel choir. And the great thing about that was I was a freshman. I was the youngest freshman, the youngest guy to ever get it. But I became director of the choir. I did what I had to do. So I became director. So when he walked in, I was in charge and in control. You're going to sing the songs that I want to sing. So I led with that. But outside of that directorship, on the rest of that campus, and this was a thing. It wasn't the gay jokes that got me. It was because I came from a place in Pennsylvania called Willow Grove. So they're like, why do you talk like that? Where's Willow Grove? Like they were making fun of me for the suburban side of me. Where's Willow Grove? Your mouth, all you are is a Colgate smile. And me, I have this thing about chapstick. I keep my lips. It's like I have an oral fixation, but I have an oral fixation. That's what it's called. I have an oral fixation. I like my mouth. So turn around and why are you looking like that? You can fry chicken on them lips. Like it just all of that started. And it just was so like, I lost it second year and had that manic episode and that breakdown because I didn't have the strength that I had in high school. I was towards the end of that cycle. I didn't have it in me to get to the ones that like me. And I failed. I did. I failed. But that was difficult. I did start talking to one football player after another football, because look at this. He left the school, but he made sure he left me with a parting gift. He told everybody that we had had sex. What straight football player lies and says he has had a man? Garland, it just was so weird. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever experienced in my life.
So at this point, you had not come out, like you were not thinking that you were gay or anything?
It wasn't that I wasn't thinking that I was gay. I knew that I was gay, but what's so great? It's so crazy. We know that we are what we are. But like I said, to hear you say it out of your mouth so that your ears and brain and heart and mind register, that's a whole different thing. So I knew, because get it, I was actively I was actively interested in a lot of those black men. They were from Florida. They had bodies like gods. I was actively interested. But and that was also part of the reason why I went away from home as far, because I'm like, okay, let me see. But then I got there and I realized I'm not giving myself to somebody that bullies me in public. The fuck? I'm not doing that. So it backfired. So I started talking to one, and we never had any physical contact. He was nice. He was really nice to me. He was nice to me. Took me, places for my birthday. But get this, he was trying to tell me, because he couldn't tell, and neither could the football team, if I was really gay, because there was nobody I had messed around with on campus. They were trying to find out, well, who is he messed with? Which one of us? And there was none. So they were walking around like, okay, he's a church boy. We know he's gay, but he's into God. So he's one of those. So he's not going to give any of us the time of day. But then I started secretly talking to one, and I fell in love with him. And he later told me that he felt some things for me. But you know how straight men are. They experiment in college. It's not really love for him. It's an experiment. And I should have known better, because I was a scientist. I went to school. His major wasn't as adept as mine, biology. I should have known I was an experiment. But part of me, my soul knew, because I never physically did anything. But I felt betrayed when he told me that he went home for one of the breaks and got a girl pregnant. I did. I felt betrayed. I felt like he belonged to me. I did. Mm-hmm. I did. And we began a courtship. But fast forwarding to the second year, when I turned 19 and had my first manic episode from being bipolar and all of that, it was triggered by their bullying. I tried to pledge a fraternity, and I was the tail. I was the tallest. The tallest on the line takes the most physical abuse. And I remember I was online with some football players, and I remember them crying like, big brother, let me take it for him. Let me take it for him. And I'm being beaten, bullied. And I mean, not beaten like beaten up. Like, when I have to give it to them, it was wood. You take wood, but they are not going easy on me. I'm the tail. And my thing was, it was already, oh, he's gay and he thinks he's going to join our fraternity. So it was like, we got to get him to drop line. So I was bullied a lot, and that actually led to more of the manic episode, the explosion, the breakdown that I had, because it turned into a nervous breakdown.
So those were your first episode, because I remember you saying, like, when you went to the modeling and all of that came down on you. When was it? At what part did you get medication and everything for this, or get diagnosed for this?
After college, the second year, that was my first manic episode. I went to a medical center. I was on medication. I still was like, what the fuck has happened? I don't know. Because that's what you don't know about mania. Everybody else can see that you're manic, but to you, you're just being you. You just don't even realize that you're on steroids at about 1,000 and 1,000,000 when everybody's at 10. You don't realize that. So that was the first diagnosis. But the diagnosis happened because, well, look at this shit. Because I then found myself and tried to push myself back in the closet. And honestly, I would say that, looking back in hindsight, that's what I get. And I'm going to say that because I knew what I was. I had a whole boyfriend. He was a whole boyfriend. I cannot say that he wasn't. He was a whole boyfriend. Just because we wouldn't have sex didn't mean anything. I was talking to that boy every night from 8 p.m. till 4 a.m. Every night. I had a whole boyfriend. While I was on the choir, while I was doing all this stuff, I make the mistake of coming home on a break. It was Christmas break. Winter break is what they call it. And I go to church. Of course, my uncle, gay, but of course, let's go to church. So we go to a different church, and there are female preachers. And I always get this. In church, I don't respond to male preachers. My pastor and my junior pastor, they were all women. So from 10, I got used to having women preach me the word. I don't really with men. It wasn't, I just didn't. And to this day, my therapist is a woman. Even though I understand I'm both masculine and feminine, my therapist is a woman because I have mastered that part of me that says a man needs a woman. All men need a woman in their life. So, I go to this church and it's a female preacher, and female preachers are more charismatic. They're more passionate. They're more empathetic about what they're talking about. You see that they mean it. They mean it. Hold on, my grandma's calling me. Okay, she didn't realize I'm not done. Okay, no, but they mean it. So she basically was talking about giving your life to God unapologetically and completely. So in my mind, I made the decision, you know what, God, if I was meant to be gay, it wouldn't be this hard to be gay. That was what I was saying. If I was meant to be gay, it wouldn't be this hard to be gay. So obviously, because I'm fighting all of this, opposition, it's not right. So I made the stupid mistake of saying, whatever you need from me, Lord, I will do. And I know that requires me giving up my boyfriend. And I will do that. Only one problem. Two problems. God ain't say that to me. I made that decision. Mm-hmm. Then I was in love. Love will do all kinds of chemical and physiological things to you. And I immediately, when I did that, I hadn't even told him what was wrong. I immediately had a broken heart in that moment because I knew I was sacrificing the most important person I had ever met in my life for God. So I get back to school and I couldn't even tell him. He started wondering, where are you? The answer machine messages, where are you? Talk to me. And what do? I yank the phone out of the wall, wrap it up, take the phone. So I'm not thinking right. Take the phone and throw it in the dumpster. You can't call me if I ain't got a phone. But what do you see? Drastic measures. You don't have to be that extreme. I was already going to extremes. But get this, in my life, I was used to going to extremes. I was either bullied or I wasn't bullied. I was either in trouble or I wasn't in trouble. I was either being laughed at or I wasn't being laughed at. So what I realized is that might have been my first manic episode, but these extremes existed in my life for years. It was always, you're either this or you're that. Even with religion, you're either hot or you're cold. You can't do lukewarm because God will spew you out of his mouth. So you got to say hot or you got to be cold. Either you're going to love God, you must or hate the devil. Like it was always that. They built that in me. And that's why I'm to this day, I don't mess with Christianity. I don't mess with any religion because it's indoctrination and it's brainwashing. So basically, long story short, I get back to college. I'm not talking to him and my manic episode just starts because now I'm alone. I've abandoned the love of my life and it just was terrible. Like it was terrible. It was terrible. It was bad. Out of character. It was bad. It was really bad. So I ended up being medically withdrawn from school. I come home. Now, mind you, before I come home, I go to the hospital and I'm on medication, but my family didn't know what bipolar disorder was. I didn't either. These are things that we don't talk about in the Black community enough. Now there's more information, but back in 2000, 2001, nobody was talking about mental health and I need to do this and I need to be this and I'm bipolar and I need this and I need that. Nobody was talking about that then. 9/11 had just happened. We were talking about terrorism. That we weren't talking about and Black people being the ones that are more susceptible because it's hereditary. I didn't pick this up. This was passed to me by my mother and my father, which both have mental illness. But growing up without them, I didn't know.
Exactly.
I was missing information that could have really helped me. So I come home and every person that's dealt with mental illness, especially being Black, especially being in an environment where we don't talk about it, we're used to, I take the medicine until I feel fine. Now that I feel fine, I'm not taking that shit no more.
Yeah.
That's what I did for years. But something happened in that hospital. I started to say, God, I can't exactly live up to what you want me to be. And then here we go. I don't know what I am yet, though he knew I was lying. And I knew I was lying. I don't know what I am yet, but I can't be this Christian. So that was my way of bowing out of Christianity.
Mm.
That was my way.
And so when did you actually say out loud to yourself that you were gay?
I had to think about that. I remember exactly. 22, Paris, France. I left the country. I was homeless here in the States, had a lovely place to stay and a beautiful man that adored me in Paris. He let me stay with him all those months to get my career together, build my career. He took care of me. And mind you, I had been intimate with him once, but for me, I don't know. It just didn't fucking register. And see, people think we're lying. To be so suppressed and repressed in your life, but your body, your hormones, your enzymes, everything is saying, I have to be who I am. You keep trying to stop me, and I'm not going to let you stop me. Because what people don't understand, which I understand about biology, human biology, at a cellular level, your cells will do what they have to do to survive. They will crash through walls. Life will find a way. So I'm intimate with him on the first day, and then I wouldn't be intimate with him anymore. He thought he had done something wrong. No, he hadn't done anything. He was beautiful, from Guadeloupe. He was beautiful. And he was older than me, and I liked that. But no, no more. Turned it off. Oh, it was once. I'm a sinner. If I don't do it anymore, you know? And then one morning, God says to me, because he had gone to work, he was quite wealthy and he worked head of his company. So he had gone. I wake up and God's like, and this is the thing, during all of this time, I'm talking to God. I'm in full communication with God and my ancestors. Didn't know it was them yet. See, there was a lot that happened, and it happened later on in life. But right now, the moment I said it, God says to me, get up. I said, okay, God, I'm getting up. He says, get dressed. Notice what he had to do with me. I was so resistant that he had to give me one command at a time. Get up. Get dressed. Go to the park. Sit over there. I could only take but so much. And he knew that. I had been battered and bullied all my life. No therapy, no nothing. I had had horrible things happen to me, traumatic emotional things happen to me. And I never went anywhere and gotten help for it at that time. So 22, I go, he says, go to the park, sit over there. Now, mind you, I'm like, God, you could have talked to me in the house. I'm thinking this. He was gone. It was just me. But God knew that if I had had the reaction that I was about to have, they would have called the police. They'd have called the police. So I sit down. And for the first time at 22 years old of age, God says to me, you know you're gay, right? And I said, I know. And I started screaming and crying and rolling around in the grass like somebody was beating my ass. Because to me, I was thinking about all of the pain that I had taken, the bullying and everything in college. And if I was gay, it made them right, so I thought. They were teasing me because it was what they said it was. And I couldn't make them right. But in that moment, so I'm rolling around and I'll never forget it. 22, I said, God, what am I going to do? After I'm crying and the French people are all speaking to me, Madame, Madame. Now, mind you, I'm bald-headed. Madame, Madame, are you okay? Are you all right? I can't answer nobody. Actually, I wasn't bald-headed. I had braids. But anyway, turns around. I couldn't answer them. I said, God, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? He said, we'll deal with it. I picked myself up. I left that park. And what I realized in hindsight, sometimes God to tell you something about yourself that is going to be life-changing, sometimes he got to take you somewhere where nobody knows you so that you can have the reaction that you need to have and not be worried about who's around you, who knows you, who's going to talk about you, belittle you, pass it on. Sometimes you got to go somewhere where, like that song in Cheers said, you got to go somewhere where nobody knows your name to have that happen. But once he said, we'll deal with it, I got up and walked out of that park. I'll be 41 this year. We have never had a conversation about it since. And then I lived my life. And then I was gay. Then everything made sense. And that was 22. Came back here, but that was still part of a manic episode. 24, my grandmother took me in. And I began getting therapy and medication regularly. Sometimes twice a week, I would see a therapist. And I began a regimented medication cycle that I've been on since I was 24. And I am now 41.
Okay. So, with that said, why did you not or decide not to transition into a trans woman?
When I got to Paris, I learned from the other models that I was not alone. I learned that many beautiful boys that have been misunderstood in their lives from wherever they came from in the world, they came to Paris seeking their own fortunes. And I learned that they, being there, transitioned and did what they had to do to feel more comfortable and to acquiesce into upper class society. Many men had come to Paris and transitioned to be models. They did what they had to do. Whether if, you hear Janice Dickinson used to say, oh, you need a nose job. The beauty industry is like that. It's not necessarily what you feel. You do what you do for where you fit.
Mm.
And in modeling, I fit on the women's runways, my body type, my size, everything, my whole life, small waist, tiny, long, beautiful legs, I fit. So they said to me, have you come here? When are you going to transition? Because you clearly have come here to become a supermodel. Clearly, you're beautiful. Clearly you've come here to pursue this career and to have a happy career. And they let me know, you'll work in this industry for the rest of your life. You'll never have cellulite. Women have cellulite. Female models that are born female have a short shelf life in modeling because their bodies change, which is why you get them kind of right after puberty till about 22 to 23 years old. Then their bodies start changing. A woman has to do a lot to her body to keep it that way for a longer period of time. There are a lot of sacrifices she has to make to keep that career going. And I know many that come to my mind that were older and modeled. Naomi Campbell, Leah Kabidi. There's all these beautiful Alec Wet. There's all these women. Deborah Shaw, who is, oh my God, she's amazing. I know her niece. So, and she's in Paris. She was known as the praying mantis back in the day. So there are these women have to make sacrifices to keep their bodies the way that they are. You come here with testosterone in your body, you'll never have cellulite. You'll never have to worry. You just have to actively keep working out. And your body, because you may be taking hormones, but because testosterone is still present, you will still be tight and right. That was never my agenda. Like I said, I felt like I was all woman and all man at the same time. That's what caused my manic episode in Paris, because I had went there on a one-way ticket to usher and acquiesce myself into upper society, to finally find my place. And once again, I was being met with a list of demands. If you want to be with us, you have to do this. And I did not feel the need to transition. And get this, a lot of men transitioned for the dollar. They might have been gay. They may have felt like they had been women all their lives, but there were a lot of really androgynous men who came to Paris, and this was the next step in their career to finalize their cash. That's what it was. It was a way. See, that's why people look at me. I think much differently than a lot of people out here. I know this industry. It is all smoke and mirrors. When you come into this industry, they figure out what you do well, and you do that. You don't get to jump around. Rarely is a talent brought in and allowed to jump from singing to acting to modeling to, to just a commercial modeling. Like it's rare. If you, and case in point, look at this. Beyonce wants to be an actress. She has been in many films that were amazing, but they keep her ass singing. That's her biggest moneymaker.
Jennifer Lopez, the same thing. She wants so bad to be an actress.
And and you know what's so funny? With J-Lo, I always felt it was the other way. I felt that she was a consummate actress, but wanted to be a singer. And I felt like, now mind you, I love her voice. She had the album AKA, and she had this song on there, Let It Be Me. And that was the first time I heard the color of her voice. And I realized, J-Lo, you can actually sing. It's not a farce. So I felt like with her, she came from acting, but J-Lo was different. J-Lo was a fly girl on The Living Color. She had been around for a long time, so they knew her. So her situation was different. But especially talent today, no, you're going to come in here and you're going to sing. That's what you're going to do. You may do a cameo here. You may do a cameo there, but you're going to make your money from singing and touring. That's what you're going to do. And that's how they sign you. And what people don't understand is you only take one contract. So when I realized, and I was faced with the idea, now mind you, look at this. My sister has scared my whole family because I didn't even talk to my sister, the sister underneath me. She told my whole family, Kali's going to Paris to transition to become a supermodel. They was all scared. They was, praying and all this stuff, like worried about me. I didn't know about that part yet, but my brother they would call my brother, because I would call my brother back in the States because my brother was going through a tough time too. And before I left, we was kind of living together. So he was going to, for a tough time. And I was rushing myself because I needed to make money to send back for him. So turn around, and my idea, my attitude was, why can't I just be what I am now? Why can't I stay who I am? Why do I have to change someone I just met? I just met me. I, for the first time, was fully aware of everything that I was on that level. Like I had known my life, but I had finally said it out loud. I had finally embraced it for myself and realized I'm going to live the rest of my life as is. And then to be faced with you, you have to understand, this was not an easy decision because it was basically, we're going to throw money your way so it'll be worth it kind of talk. That's what it was. Like I got there and they're like, oh, you're late. And I'm like, no, the men's season starts in October. They're like, no. You should have come and auditioned for the women's seasons. You'd be a supermodel. All you need to do is one fashion week. 1 week. You should be doing the women's shows. So I heard that from all, and get it. I got to know, I move, I'm a chameleon. I know what I need to do. So I looked like a model, but I had the heart of a journalist. So I got to know all of the editors and chiefs of all the magazines. The editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine Japan got me into one of the biggest shows I saw. I started relying on my relationships that I was making with the press and with these editors. And they were like, you're beautiful. You're going to do well here. So I'm like, okay, I have everybody telling me I'm beautiful. Why do I need to change? And this was another thing. A lot of models, see, people look at models on TV. That's not how they look over there. You got to understand, America has a whole different idea of what a model looks like. If you really saw a French model, you'd be like, ill. Pretty face, but a bag of bones. No breast, no hips, nothing. Pretty face, because that face has to carry that garment. That's it. You're a hanger. You can make a lot of money being a hanger, but you're a hanger. And these girls walk until they can't walk anymore. And then they usually, take their money and either marry well or start a business or, do those things. But that was not my route. I could not and would not transition because it was being presented to me for $1 to be paid. If you do this, you'll get paid this much money. And what alarmed me was that they were so comfortable saying it to me, like they had said it to countless others. Like it was so roll off the tongue. Oh yeah, you just have to transition. There'll be no problem. You'll be big here. And I'm looking like, and to me, I felt like, you want me to cut out 1/2 of my soul? Because my soul is both. I knew that then. You actually want me. And basically, what was said, nobody likes an in-between. A or B. Nobody likes an in-between. So to me, that was a challenge. Okay. Nobody likes an in-between. Watch me. But it hurt. I came back in disgrace, back to being homeless, sleeping on my friend's couch. And I cried for years, 2 years, till I got with my grandmother. But even that wasn't easy. Because like I said, my grandmother was not educated on, though all her children except my mother were gay and lesbian. She had distanced herself so far from the homosexuality and lesbianism because of the church. I had to educate my grandmother. I literally had to say to my grandmother one day, why would I choose something that would get me bullied, beaten up, inevitably killed, I die, and burn in hell for the rest of my life? Why would I choose that? Anybody in their right mind would go along to get along, would change. But I can't change. And I won't change. And it's been this thing. Even till now, I am confronted with people that want me to change simply because I would be more easily understood. I've had trans women write me and say, girl, what you waiting on? And I'm like, and this part is the frustrating part, because I'm like, baby, I understand, but I'm not like you. I'm something else. I'm something else. I respect you. I respect what you've gone through. I respect how you feel, but I'm something else. There's a lot of them that get mad that I use the word trans illusionist. Well, transvestite was the word before that. And get it. See, most people in a professional setting learn a set of skills and they use those skills until retirement. They're not actually the creator and the product at the same time. I'm the creator and the product at the same time. That's why most people that want to be in entertainment don't understand how to do it, because you're the creator and the product at the same time. You're selling you. People don't, like the brain just doesn't get it. And it took me a while, but once I got it, I never let it go. I have had to say to them, no, baby, I'm comfortable where I am. And it's like, and I still get that even professionally. Gotta be one or the other. You gotta be one or the other. You can't be in between. And I'm like, do you? And this is the thing. I look back at my therapy, 18 years of therapy. Do you know how long it took me to build in a middle ground? Because as a bipolar, a person that lives with bipolar type 1, it's extremes. It's either hot or cold. You have to learn to have a middle ground, and you have to live your life in the middle ground. Look at that. Even with my illness, it points to living my life in balance. What's supposed to be wrong with me, I now have to do for my health. I have to live in balance. I cannot be too far to the left. I cannot be too far to the right. I must exist right here. And it was hard to do in the beginning, but after 18 years, I've learned to do it. And it makes me upset that I get people, especially from the trans community, that want to be understood so bad, but then get offended that I'm passable. Well, you're not really trans. You're just playing. You're a boy in a dress. Well, why do you have to disrespect me? I'm not disrespecting you. I am who I am. Just like you say you are who you are. Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? I baked the motherfucker. I baked it. So why are you telling me that I can't have the first piece before I divvy it up and give it to the world? Like, and that's the thing with entertainment, what I don't like, which is why I also forged my own company. They want you to give, and give, and you're going to keep giving. And one day you're going to look up and have none of you yourself. The price is you. When they say sell your soul, don't sell your soul to the entertainment industry, they mean don't sell you, because you sell your likeness. You sell your voice, you sell your talents, you sell your mind, you sell your image, you sell you. And people don't get that. They don't understand that. And as a person that has kept the entertainment industry off of her soul, it's very easy for me to go between he and she. But yet and still, I have people, even trans people, that are like, what are you? And I'm like, baby, what do you see in front of you right now? And they're like, I see you in a dress. I said, well, what's the pronoun for someone in a dress? She. Okay, go with that. Then you see me, and I'm going to come back to you in a baseball cap, tight shirt, my gym attire. What do you see in front of you? A he. Okay, what's the problem? Well, my problem is you can't be both. Who said I can't be both? My soul was born this way. I deliver a certain brand of entertainment because I am two-spirited. My work, I don't miss, because I got the masculine and the feminine covered. I don't miss. When I deliver a message from the divine and from spirit and from the ancestral plane, that shit hits everybody. It doesn't just women. You have some men, gay men, that I love, but their audience, their target audience are women, because they themselves feel more feminine. So they cater to more of the feminine. Now get you, I'm going to go somewhere with this, and this is going to, I don't hope this don't throw you. But for so long in my life, we may have talked about this before, I tried to do what I needed to do to get along, to go along. I listened to men, even gay men, tell me that because I was more effeminate, I should be the bottom in the sexual situation. I should do that because that's what boys do that act like you. And I'm like, I'm more man than you and your daddy, because I handle my responsibilities. I worry about my family. I take care of mine. You don't even do that. You ain't seen your kids. But you telling me. And that is so alarming. It's so alarming. Everybody, I don't get this. I guess what I'm saying today is everybody's sitting back wondering when I'm going to transition. Wait on it, because you're going to die first. I don't need to transition. That's why I wanted to speak with you about this. You being trans, you are a great person to talk to, because like you said, you've known who you were your whole life. You never felt like, you said you felt more like, okay, I'm a girl. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. I'm a girl. I felt like I'm a girl and a boy. Like, get it? When The Fifth Element came out, that was my movie. I used to stand outside and look up at the sky and do that, at the end where the light shoots out of her mouth. I used to do that. I'm the fifth element. They don't understand me, but honey, I'm here to save life. Like, that was my attitude, because it was like, okay, there's the male, there's the female, and then there's in between. And we say it all the time, intersexed. Well, if you have a category for people that are intersex, meaning they have both genitalia, why can't we have a category for someone like me who is spiritually two spirits? And it's so crazy, because I have colleagues that are shaman, just like I am, and they say to me, "You're so powerful because you learn to balance both sides of yourself. You are so powerful and potent because you did not neglect one side to strengthen the other." I can assure you, my masculine side, I don't show him much. You've seen him. When we start talking about things that a man should have to do, I was looking at a video that I made, and I said, it was one of the early Queen of Shade videos. It was 15 seconds. And I laughed and said, just because you have that thing dangling between your legs does not mean that you're a real man, was what it was. And what people need to understand is, we see dads raise their daughters. Mama died in childbirth. Dad raises the daughter. We don't see you telling him he shouldn't have his daughter, trying to take his daughter away from him because he's a man and gonna mess her up. We see plenty of single mothers raising boys. And the boys, like, get it, all the boys ain't gangbangers. They went to school. Mama made sure they went to school. They got whatever they needed to do. They love their mamas. But like, I even heard the song, and I'm not gonna say the artist because I don't want to get in trouble, but it's one of my favorite artists. And she had this song, and she said, a woman can raise a man, can teach a man how to stand, but not really how to be a man. And I was like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit, because humanity has reduced being a man or a woman to physical actions. Your soul is genderless, or both genders. It's both genders and no genders at the same time. So if I have a soul, my soul can reach your soul. You're going to relate because you have a soul. It doesn't matter whether you are male, woman. You have a soul. And I think that's what it is with me. I try not to be religious, and it's not really religion. You have a soul. When I speak, I soul speak. That's what I do. That's what it's called. I soul speak. So it's beyond your normal masculinity or femininity. It's soul speaking. My one friend said this to me years ago. She said, I see you. She said, you wish so much that it just didn't even matter. And I do, because I learned in a sociology class in college that you could be born gay, that men that are gay have, some men, the effeminate men, smaller waist, hips are closer together. There may be a roundness. This is genetics and evolution building a man to be held by another man. And get it, when I came home from all of that fiasco, one of the girl's best friends that I was sleeping on her couch, she looked at me and said, baby, first of all, I want to congratulate you for not selling your soul for the almighty dollar, is what she said to me. And then she said to me, baby, you are what you are. Look at your waist. Look at your hips. Look at your face. Look at your legs. You're meant to be with a man. That was the first time I'd ever heard someone say that to me in a good way. She said, you're meant to be with a man. There's nothing that about you that says you want to be with a woman. Now, mind you, I said this on social media before. I said this, gay men love women. We will protect a woman with our lives. There has been many situations. You do not want to accost one of my girlfriends. Heaven help you, because that protector comes out, and people don't get that. It's like I use what's appropriate for the scenario. It's not code switching. People think, oh, excuse me, oh, he's code switching. Or, when you go to the hood and he talks like that. I don't do that. I'm me all the time. That's what I learned to master. That's what the 18 years of therapy and medication and blood drawn, as much as I hate needles, all that blood drawn to make sure my levels were right. I've suffered to be who I am. It's what I'm saying. I've met to exist. I hate needles. My mother was a drug addict. My father. I hyperventilate when I see needles. But for 18 years, I've had to have my blood drawn to check my levels, which means I have had to go through pain and duress to be who I am sitting in front of you. That hits differently with me. You can't just destroy that or fold her up and put her in a box labeled the Queen of Shade. My grandmother's going to be upset. She has this thing where she says to me, oh, people love the Queen of Shade, but it's not who you are. And I'm like, I understand where she's coming from, but the persona is me. It is me. It's the other half of me. It is me. And I get offended when people try to reduce her to a character. She's not a character. She's me. She's been here my whole life. And people have listened to this, and I know they're listening, and they're like, okay, but if there's something I want all listeners to take away from this, stop looking at a person. And because you can't figure them out, though you're impressed by them, please stop trying to compartmentalize. Please stop. It's like, please don't do that. If it's the wheat and tear situation, if you start cutting away, you're going to cut the good and the bad at the same time. Stop doing that. People get it. People do that to me all the time. All the time. And I'm I'm like, no, it's more than that. It's more than that. But your brain is what I'm thinking. Your brain is too feeble to even understand. If I go through all of the evolution, you won't understand it. My neighbor, he moved and I loved him. He's one of my first straight male friends. And he said it. He's like, you're the only man ever that has ever called me beautiful. And I allow it because I know that you're really meaning that I'm beautiful. You find me attractive, but you have restraint and you respect the situation. I do that with all my men, which is why straight men and gay men thank me for posting them on my page, because I'm not catcalling them. You're a man. I want to support you because in supporting you, I'm supporting me. Hello? But he said to me, he was like, people need to really pay attention. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say exactly how he said it. And they may be mad with me for using the N-word. But he said to me before he moved, he said, you can wear all them pretty dresses all you want. You can wear them wigs and that makeup and look beautiful, more beautiful than my wife. He said, but you a real nigga. That's exactly what he said to me. He said, you a real nigga. He said, and it's a fool that underestimates that ability. And that's the thing. I showed I hide my masculinity now. And I don't mean to, but my femininity is beautiful. So I'm a Libra. I love all beautiful things, but I don't necessarily want people to see the mastermind behind the beauty all the time, because when you look into his eyes, you're going to be like, oh, he's ravenous. He's crazy. He's insane. He's a wolf. He's hungry. I don't want you to see the animalistic hunger that my masculinity, that side of me shows. And my nephew triggered me about something. We were talking about something. And I was like, as a man, I got to do what I'm supposed to do. And it just came out. And for the first time, he knew it was there, but I felt ashamed and embarrassed. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to show that side to you. He's like, Uncle, you're just like me. I understand you. But get it, even in this industry, I've learned, and you got to be careful. I've learned to stay pretty, to stay prim, to stay proper. Because the moment I show you the masculinity, you're going to call me a nigger for real. You're going to call me hood. You're going to call me angry. You're going to call me ghetto. When all I'm trying to do is get to the $1 billion so that I can change my life and the lives of the people I love. And that side of me is not this. She's the spokesperson. My side, that side, she's the spokesperson. The mastermind behind it, who won't let anybody get in his way, who will mow you down like you mean nothing. I don't show him because he's my brawn. She's my brain. He's my brawn. He's smart, but he's scary sometimes, even to me. He's scary because I've never, and this is so crazy to say about yourself, but I've never met someone so focused and more hungry and driven in my life. It's beyond human. It's beyond human. You shouldn't have that kind of drive. People are like, oh, well, how did you get there? You shouldn't have what I have. You shouldn't, but I do. So I do. Stop trying to get me to cut off parts of myself. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm not talking about that at all. That's nobody's business, whether you're trans or not. What's between your legs is none of anybody's business. But I mean, stop trying to get me to chop away at who I am. Let me exist in the beautiful bounty and the manifestation of who I completely am and who I choose. Listen, I choose to show up like this. I'm feminine outside of this, but I choose to have her be the ambassador. Why? Because I work in entertainment. I have for 23 years. People love how pretty she is. It goes with the voice. I'm just doing what I need to do. But this is just me showing a representation. I'm both. What are you? I'm both. Let me be both. I've had to deal with even in my family. Oh, he gonna transition. Oh, he gonna transition. Oh, he gonna do that. He gonna give his soul to the devil. I had a prophetess when I was 12 years old. I was going to put the offering in the offering plate. Look at this, Garland. She was taking everybody's hand. She took my hand and jerked like that. She looked at me and said, stop everything. Look at this. Now, she's a seer. She turned around and said, young man, I want you to know something. You're pretty, but you're not that pretty. You're a man. Stay a man. And then she made me speak into the microphone with my high-pitched voice. I'm a man, in front of the whole congregation. And I know now, A, she saw my departure from the church, and B, she saw this before it ever came about. And she tried to dissuade me. And people do that. She tried to dissuade a child. I didn't even know the fullness of what was happening. But if I had listened to her, I'd have missed this. Even in Paris, I wouldn't put on a wig. My friends before I went said, bitch, put on a wig. I thought I was doing something with the braids. She said, no, put on a lace front and go. I wouldn't do it. Only for 18 years later, something like 17, almost 18, I now make my bones and am world famous. And I'm in a wig. And I think about, what if I had did this earlier? What if I had stopped caring about what people had to say earlier? I still found my way, yes, but I don't we cannot let people speak into our souls. I don't let people speak into my soul. I hear you with my ears, but I close my soul because people will mess you up. I said in a meme last night, people will F you and then they will F you if they can. They will F you to destroy your agenda and then they will F you because they want to. Most people do not understand that a person that you envy, you actually want. A person that you hate, you actually love. You adore. But you're upset because looking at them shines a light on your inadequacies, your shortcomings, your limitations. And you don't like the fact that looking at this person, they cause you to see where you come up short. It's always been my issue. It's always been my issue.
Listen, you have said so, like, I swear, like, I resonate fully in everything, and there's even no need. I love to show or give an example of what similarities we have, but I'm not going to even go into that. But just know that everything that you said, it's like you said, it is the mirror, right? So when I'm hearing you talk, it connects to certain parts of my life that makes me see me, and either see the similarity or see how there is still, maybe it's just the flip side, same coin, but flip side. But no matter how I look at it, there's still that similarity there of our experiences in our life. And you were saying that, you wondered, like, what if you had done this sooner? But once again, I hear, like, if you had done that sooner, then they would have owned you. And so now you have come full circle, my friend, and I'm so proud of you. You keep reinventing. You're still that chameleon, right? It's like you said in our last interview, you have died and come back again many times in this one life time, and it's true. And this is another part. This is our third conversation together on my show, and each time the pieces come together, right? This could be a series, because I see how you've transformed so many times. But it's like, when you lived this life, we went from your childhood all the way up to college and to now. But what I saw was this recreation of things, but you owning who you are, right? So let's go. So when in high school, you joined track, and then you got involved with, had some camaraderie with some Black men. You learned how to talk to them. You learned how to get them to like you. And then I started thinking about how on your platform, as you have become the Queen of Shade and advertise all these beautiful men for years, and then you allowed them to speak and to be real people to us, right? And so that for me is like another recreation of when you were on the track team and you had these boys and you talked to these guys and you humanized them and you understood them, and you let them be vulnerable, and you praised them and you complimented them. You were very generous with how you shared your platform with them. And I just love seeing this whole full circle. Like, you have literally, like, as I listen to you, you have done a whole full circle to come to this place where you are now. And you could not have done that any sooner, because like I said, now you're in a place where what you learned in that first round, you used all of that shit that you went through to build what you have built. And not one thing needed to have been adjusted, because everything and who you are is perfect, just the way it is.
Now that I've said it, I'm not going to lie, and I need you here because I just feel like bawling my eyes out. I just feel like bawling my eyes out because I'm like, it just, we all want to be understood, especially as artists. But like I said before, to be completely understood is the goal. And I'm saying these things because I want, I'm famous and I'm only getting more famous, and it's like, I don't want to have to go back to my pain if I don't have to. If I tell you everything, will you just let me live my life? But you're right. I can't expect you to let me live my life. I have to step up and live my life. And that is what I'm getting from you. The strength that I'm getting from you is just like, a long time ago, I had to stop being a people pleaser. And, that's hard for a Libra. We because that goes with the entertainment. How can I shuck and jet, and it's like I'm a weird entertainer because I'm looking at you like that ain't enough money. Like, I'm not coming in. I just recently had to walk away from some things, offered all kinds of roles and stuff, and I'm like, because you want too much of me. And they looking at me like, well, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, no, baby, I know who I am. Who the fuck are you? And you won't be down. You won't be around. I've been here 23 years and longer than that. 41. Where will you be in 5? Because I've watched all these people over the course of my career. I've seen people come and go. People that were bigger than me, people that were helping me, people that were sharing me. Honey, they are nowhere to be found. And I find that okay, God, the divine is speaking to me and he's like, you're still relevant because it's not an act. You're just being you. Just being you. That's what I have. See, that's what I need to take away. I'm just being me.
It's just being you. And you didn't have to be typecast by anybody. You've got to allow yourself to be the chameleon that you are, and you've gotten to evolve over this period of this 20-something years that you've been building what you've built. You've allowed yourself to be who you needed to be for every moment in this process.
Thank God. Thank God. I was telling my nephew today because he was frustrated and he was like, I just don't see a way from me. He's like, why would God give me this brain and this mind, to do what I want to do and not be able to do it? And I said, listen, let me tell you the truth. It's money. I said, you need to take and save $300,000 in capital to turn around and be able to start your own business. That was the number that came to me for him. And I said to him, you're going to have to sacrifice. Because from 24 years old, I sacrificed all of my years. I didn't party. I didn't club. I didn't do any of those things. I stayed here, chained to this desk, working. But like you said in the last interview, and it made me think of Tina Turner, she was a slave to herself. I was a slave to myself. I own every part of me. Nothing's for sale. Nothing. Not in here. And that's the good part. That's the good part, because you're so right. My grandmother says the same thing you just said to me. If you had done this earlier, if you had a peak, they would have owned you. Mm-hmm. And God didn't want anybody to own you because I asked God for the hardest thing ever. And I know I did. I asked him for freedom, utter freedom. That's my secret. I asked God, he said, what do you want from life, from everything? I said, God, I want to be free. I want to be able to sing when I want to or not. Go on tour when I want to, or just one show, and that be it. And to do that, he said, you've asked me for something I never do. You've asked me for a level of freedom I never do, which is to put it all in your hand. You had to understand that it took you so long because what you asked me for requires so much of me and you. And see, that's the thing. People ask God for things and they are asking him. They forget that it's going to require of them. They gotta give. And I said, and my nephew made me feel so good because he said, Unc, you may have sacrificed your youth. He said, but you got everything you wanted. You got everything you wanted. He said, you got what you wanted, what you needed, and what you didn't know you wanted or needed. And I did.
Well, Queen, you are an inspiration to me. I say it all the time and I'll continue saying it. Because, as being 48 and, I understand that also for myself that my life is as it's supposed to be right at this moment, but I know there's more. Mm-hmm. And when I hear you, at 40, being able to be in this place, where you built your empire. And I see you now getting to this place as you continue to open up and let go of some of these things you've been holding on to, that you're going to get in this place of such security internally that if you decide you want to sell bits and pieces, you can, and you won't feel like somebody's taking from you like you have been taken from in the past. And I love that for you. I love where you're going, where you continue to go, and how you're growing as you are going to the places that you're headed to, you know. So I'm inspired by that, because I know where I'm at now is only just the means for my next evolution, you know, and that is something that we'll continue to be doing for the rest of our lives, because that's just who we are. You know, we're not gonna ever just reach that place where we're just like, okay, well, this is it, and I'm fine, and then what? No, our capacity is much too expansive, right? Like, I mean, like I've said, I've seen you, you've let yourself be in the spotlight for years, and I've seen the changes. And I'm certain that if you had sold out any sooner, that you would have been stunted.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful for you. And once again, thank you so much for trusting me to help you tell your story, because it's constantly fascinating to me when I hear more about who you really are. And this was another epic and riveting conversation. And thank you so much for being a part of.
I'm just honored to be on your show. I'm just honored to be on your show. I am, like, because my thing is, and I want to say this before we end. You know, you said something in the beginning of this. You were like, oh, I'm not Oprah, you know, this is that and the other. But you know what I learned, and the reason why I am so successful is because I realized that Oprah is Oprah, but there's still people in the world that don't know who Oprah is. They may be living under a rock, but what I'm saying is that I realized that I could have people help me build my career who nobody knew. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I got to this place because nobody knew my producer. Shout out to Kara Tavers, Minnie on the boards. Nobody knew her, but she's a leader in her field, and literally has helped me craft my sound, you know, like, so I also realized because I wouldn't be able to go to mainstream, I was going to have to work within our community. So I grabbed people in the community, like, honey, and I'm a firm believer. I'm like, the straights do it all the time. Why do we have to go outside the gay community, the trans community, you know, the whole LGBTQIAP community to get what we need done? We need to start working interconnectively and interpersonally. We need to start doing that inside, because it's like, you know, I really, my attitude when I first started was, I don't need any straight people. Fine. They don't like me. I'm gay. I'll stay all gay. I'll do all gay. And that's what I did. I did. Mm-hmm. That's what I did.
I love it. You did it well. And you stayed mainly with the Black community as well, even though they haven't been the best to you in your journey. You still found a way to accept your culture and to be a leader. You worked your way up. The person who was being bullied and tortured and tormented, you know, you worked your way up to being a representative, right? To be a solid representative, and have been able to mentor and help so many other young Black men in the community. And I feel so full, and I always tell you, I'm so glad that you're a part of my life, you know, and I just love that we're on our third interview, you know, and getting to know you even more, but more so the people out there who I know just adore watching the Queen of Shade do her thing. But it means a lot more when someone really knows who you are. Girl, let me tell you, you are getting ready. I know you know already, because I know God has given to you, getting ready to go. It's like,
I'm about to be that Fifth Element, like.
Yes, right there. It's it. We're here. Well, is there anything else that you want to say to your people and to the people out there who are going to be watching this before we Say goodbye.
Just please don't ever let peer pressure or your mother, your father, your husband, your wife tell you who you need to be, because who you are to them is completely separate from who you are to yourself. And that matters. We are so taught to be so selfless and so giving. Well, what happens when you give it all away? Just save the good parts for yourself. No, listen, nobody will know that they're the good parts that you saved, because they'll take whatever you're giving. That's the way the world is. They'll take it. Nobody has to know that you saved the choice cuts for yourself. What you bring is what you bring. Save the choice cuts of yourself for you.
I love it. Well, there you have it, everyone. I am Lady Garland, and this is the Queen of Shade. And you have just been part of something riveting. I hope that you took some of these tidbits and added to your life, and go and be great. Remember, there's only one you, and nobody can be you better than you can.